second lesson in the first week in our Power BI class. And today we will be looking at something interesting. But before we move into that, in case you have not subscribed to my channel, please do that. And today we'll be looking at trying to, create this dashboard on Microsoft Power BI. And the title will be Global Sales Overview. And the visuals we'll be using will include bar charts, pie charts, line charts, card visuals, and then slicers. In case you cannot do this as at now, that's fine. The objective is at the end of today's class, you should be able to do this comfortably, right? The next thing we're trying to do now is to import the data. This is the interface of Microsoft Power BI. And for me to get the data, I just click on this get data icon, or if I'm sure it is Excel or OneLake or SQL, I just click on the icon here. But since I'm using get data, I just click on get data and then I click on Microsoft on Excel workbook coming up. And then the data is financial sample data. And then I click open. Right. So I have three different sheets and I can preview the sheet and then I click load and then it's coming up. Takes a few seconds and then we can see data from the data pane just towards the right hand side of my screen. If I click the down arrow, I can see the different columns I have, different fields I have in my data. Right. What we want is to create a dashboard, and this is the title, Global Sales Overview. So what I'll do is, I may decide to do the title first, depending on you. For you to insert a title to your dashboard, you can click on the text box icon. Once you click on it, it brings it to the screen, and then you can adjust, drag it up, resize it, and then the title is Global Sales Overview. Then I can highlight it and then increase the font size. Maybe I want it bigger, make it bold. Yeah, I think that's fine. If I want, I may want to align it to the center. I may want to change the color if I want. So if I want to change the color, we have, if you click outside of it, just beside the data pane, you have the visualizations. So if you click on, for example, the text box, under the visualization pane, you can now see different formatting options, how to just make it look better. So I may want to create an effect, maybe to change the color. So I may want to use 20% darker white just to make it stand out. So that's fine. And then I want to create a bar chart. So this is stacked bar charts. This is stacked column charts. This is a clustered bar charts. This is a clustered column charts. 100% stacked bar charts. Just choose whatever works best for you. And then I can resize it. Make it a bit bigger if I want. And then I want the country to be in the axis. So I look for the country, and then sales. Yeah, so country is in the y-axis, sum of sales is in the x-axis. And remember, if you click on this drop-down arrow, you can decide to change it from sum to average to minimum to maximum to count these things, depending on what you want. But here we are using sum. So that is my bar chart. Okay, the next one I want is to do a pie chart. But before that, you can still, edit and make it look the way you want it. A lot of formatting that you can do on the charts. Now, the next visual I want to create is a pie chart. So if I click, anywhere on the screen on it, it gives me, the pie chart. But for example, if I undo that, let's say I clicked on this bar chart and I want to create a pie chart and I did not click outside of the bar chart. If I click on the pie chart, it automatically changes that visual to the new one I have clicked on. But because that's not what I want to do, I click back on the bar chart, click outside to unselect it, and then click on the pie chart. Okay. So after clicking on the pie chart, what do I want to do? I want the sales distribution. I want pie chart sales distribution by segment. So the legend will be the segments. So the segment is here, and I can put it as a legend. And then I have the sales as my value. So this sales and this is values. Okay, that's fine. As I said, you have other formatting options. You can decide to format it the way you want, and that can be found from this format your visual icon. And you have a whole lot of formatting that you can do on that visual. And the options you see displayed here depends on the visual you are selecting. So that means if I click on my bar charts, the formatting options are different. Right. Right. So I want to create a line chart. Remember, for you to create a new visual, if you have visuals on the page already, what you can do is to unselect the visuals you have, because if you don't unselect it, it will change the visuals you have to the new one you want to create. So I want to create a line chart. I ensure I click outside of the visuals and then I click on the line chart. Line chart is just the second row, the first icon, and I click on it. I can drag it and place it wherever I want. We can see the guidelines trying to tell me, in case I want it the same size, I can just adjust it to fit in. If I want it to be centralized, I can keep dragging it and then it takes it to the center of that section and just drag it around and place it wherever you want it. Right. So I want a line chart and it's monthly sales trend. The axis is dates or month name. So I can look for month name if I want, or I can decide to use the dates. So if I use the dates, I can see that I have the hierarchy of the dates. That means I have the dates, the quarter, the month, the day. Okay, let's continue and then we'll check out what we have. Then if I have sales, we can see the line charts. But if I decide I want to have the date itself and not the date hierarchy, the date hierarchy has the year, the quarter, the month, the day, as you can see on the screen. But what if I just want the dates, not the hierarchy? So I can click on the drop down arrow and then I choose the dates. So if you over it, you can see, you know, you can see the different dates, 1st of December, like that, like that. Whereas if I choose the hierarchy, it's just the year that I have. So it's just taking the highest hierarchy. And then, of course, if you have the hierarchy, you can drill down. That means if I click this, it is to expand it to the next level. Remember, hierarchy is as from the highest up to the next level, to the next level, to the next level. That means if I click on this, expand all down one level in the hierarchy, it takes me to the month level. And then you can now see to the quarter. After the year, you have the quarter. So you have the quarter, you can click on the quarter. You can say, okay, this is how the quarter is. If you click the next one, it's still the same thing. You have the next one, which is, okay. So you just keep expanding it like that until you get to the last point in the hierarchy. But if you don't want the hierarchy, you can just click the drop down arrow and then choose the dates. Once you click on the dates, you can see how the visual is. And if you have observed, if I click on a point on any of the visual, it affects all the visuals. That means if I come and I click on the blank alone, you can see that the line chart has nothing blank. So that means it's empty. If I click on United States, we can see it. If I click on Germany, you can see it. It's affecting everything, including a pie chart. It's affecting everything. But there's a way to control that if you don't want it to affect, the entire visual. It all depends on you, but you can modify it and say, okay, if I click on the pie chart, I don't want it to affect the bar charts. You can also modify that. So if I want it in the hierarchy form, I just click on the drop down arrow and then click on date hierarchy. And one thing about the hierarchy you can also do is, for example, you want the year and you want just the month. You don't want the quarter. So you can click on the cancel for the quarter and then it removes the quarter from the hierarchy. You can remove the day if you don't want the day. So what I want is just the year and the month. And then you can still drill down and it shows it to you. That's 2014 June, 2014 July, 2014 September, just like that. So it is from the year up to the month, and that is it. And if you want to go back to the date, you just click the drop down arrow and then you put the dates, and that is the date you have over there. We want to, look at adding card visuals to our dashboard, but for us to, make the most of it, it's good to arrange your visuals properly so that at least you can see everything at a glance. For example, let's say the line charts, you want it to show to occupy more space like that. And then you want, let's say, the pie chart to be at that point, and then you have the bar chart. Then I want to of this. I want my card visuals to be here. Okay. So we have two types of card visuals. And the first one is this. You can see it 1, 2, 3. So if I click on that card visual, I can resize it. And then let's say I want to put the total sales there. So if I click on the sales, it tells me the sum of sales, which is the total sales, 237.45 million. That is fine. If I want another card visual to show total profits, if I click on profits, nothing happens. Why? Because on the card visual, you can only put one item at a time. So that means if I want the profit, I can remove this and then put the profits. But I cannot have the two at the same time. But there's a solution to that. Instead of having, that means I can duplicate this visual or just click outside of it and then click the card visual again and then click on, say, this is profit, that's profit, so I want the sales. So I have some of profit, I have some of sales. But instead of having two different visuals, let's see this new card visual. If you click on the new card visual and you click on sales and you click on profits, we can see that I can actually have two different visual in the new card. That means I can have more than one. For example, if I have units sold as well, let's expand that. Oh, let's see, gross sales. Okay, let me remove profits. Then I put the gross sales. Okay. So we can have profits, we can have gross sales, we can have sales, just keep going like that. And of course, remember the formatting option. You can format it and decide how many you have. You can decide how you want it to look like. So instead of telling me 33.7 M, I can decide, okay, I don't want you to shorten it for me. Just write the entire figures out. So you can format it and let it look the way you want. And then instead of having sum of profit, you can actually change it and say, just click on the down arrow. You see rename for visual, for this visual. Then you click on it. And then you can say, for example, target sales, and you press enter. So instead of sum of sales, we are having target sales. And then instead of sum of gross sales, you can just change it to whatever you want. And then you can resize it. You know. Yeah, so formatting it will be delving more into it in in the future classes. Right, so we want to talk about slicers. So what does a slicer do? It's just to filter your dashboard or your visual, just to filter it to what the part of that slicer. For example, if I have a slicer for the years, that means I can decide to see a portion of the entire set. I have years from 2000 to 2025, and I have a slicer. And from the slicer, I can choose maybe just 2 years or just choose 3 years. And that will affect the entire dashboard. And of course, as I said, you can also modify that to affect just a portion or a part of the dashboard. Okay, so how do you impute a slicer into your visual? So this is a slicer. You click on it. So we click on the slicer, and here we are for a slicer. Maybe I don't want it up there. I want to resize this. I want to resize this. And then I want to put my slicer up here. So I said the slicer should be the year and then the country. So once you click on the slicer is just like the first card visual. You just click on it and then click on what you want in the slicer. So I want the year. So where is my year? Here it is. Now look at the way the slicer is 2013 to 2014. And you have this slide that you can slide it up or down. And if you look at it, it is actually affecting the visual. So that's 2013 to 2013. You can see the way the visual has changed. If you check it back to 2013 to 2014, it has also affected it. And you can also format the way this visual is. That means if I click on this format icon, I can decide to come to the slider settings, and then I don't want it between. I want it as a drop down. So that means if it's a drop down, just click on this drop down arrow, and then you can choose 2013, or you can choose 2014, or you can control and then select the two, or you can choose blank, just the way you want it. And once you are done, that is it. That's the first slicer. And the second one we want is a slicer for the country. So if I click on another slicer, remember I have to click outside of the initial visual for me to be able to put a new one. Otherwise, it will override the type of visual I've chosen before. So I click on the slicer, and then the new one, what I want is a country. So if I click on the country, just drop and drag it inside. And then I can see my visual, the countries. As I'm clicking on it, I click on Canada, I can see that the sum of profit is 2.7 million. I can see that France is 2.97, Mexico is 2.31, United States of America is 2.44, just like that. And as I said, you can still change it. If you don't want it to be, for it to be clicking like that, if you want it to be drop down, come to the format, click on slicer settings, and then maybe the drop down. That's your choice. Germany, Mexico, United States, France, Canada, or you can control and then select Canada and Germany, and then it goes. That's it. And remember, you can also unselect, from the slicer, you want to unselect those countries. If you click on this icon that shows like an eraser, clear selections. Once you clear selections, it selects everything. That means everything is being selected. You can come back to the year and then click on it again, and then all of the years are being selected. So that's the function of a slicer. You can limit, what the dashboard is showing to just a particular part of it. Right, this is card visual, and I want to just format it, and I don't like the way it is like this. Sum of profit 3.7 M. You know, what can I make it better? So I come to the formatting part of BI, and then there's this call out value. Click it to drop it down. You can change the font type. I want it to be Arial black, or I want the size to be reduced as well. I want to change the color. I like it to be green, and then I want it very green. Yeah, because the profit is so much. There's so much money to spend. So that's green. And then decimal points. Do I want decimal points? No, I want to see the entire, that's 34 million. But if I want it to be two, three, four, like that, whatever you want. So I think one decimal point is fine. And then the label. What is the label? That's just the sum of profits. So I can also change that. I want to change the color to a purple. I want it bold. And then I want to increase the size. Or I want to reduce the size. So you can modify the way it is. Look and format it to make it. For example, your organization may have colors that you can use, and you want to make sure those colors are reflected in your dashboard because you are presenting to the executives. You don't want to present to executives of, for example, or First Bank Nigeria Limited, and you are giving them a purple. It's not in their color. So you want to be sure that yes, this color is what um, is reflecting the brand of the organization. So you can format it to be like that, and then that's fine. So I want to format this new card visual. And then what will I do after adding the sales and the profit and the likes? I come to the format option, and then cards. How do I want it to be like? Do I want a rectangle card? Do I want rounded rectangle? Or do I want this, snipped tab both top? Okay, so let me look for rounded rectangle, and what other, if I want a background for it, I don't want white. I want, yeah, I think it's too dark. Let me make it a bit light. Yes, that's lighter. Um, so that's that. You can change the colored value. If you don't want it that big, you can reduce the size. Right. You can change the color of the text if you want. You can change it also to green. You can change the label instead of um maybe you want to change the color as well. You can just do a whole lot of that. The layouts, you can change the layouts. Is it to the top, to the middle, to the bottom? You can do that. You can come also to the general, and then you can see the properties, you can see the title, the effects, you know, just the way you want it to look like. And that is that. For example, I want to format, the way my figures are displayed. I know that this is sum of profits. and I want it to show, maybe I want it to show the currency symbol. I want it to be formatted to two decimal places, so that anywhere I'm using that particular field, that formatting is applied. So what will I do? I just come and I click on the field profits, and then we can see the options at the top right, top part of the screen. So I can change it to, for example, I just click on this drop down arrow beside the dollar sign, and then I want United Kingdom, and then we can see that I want it to one decimal place. I want it to, okay, it's formatted as currency, and the name is profit. If I want it to be, let's say, instead of profit, I want it to be profit to be, you know, that's it, profit to be. If I don't want it again to be profit to be, I can click delete it and make it profit. Okay. And remember, we can also change for this other visual. If I click on, for example, I want the gross sales to be uh, currency as well, United Kingdom. I want it two decimal places, and then yeah, that's fine. And then I want the sales as well. So if I click on the sales to be currency, and then I click United Kingdom, and then it's changed it to that. I can expand it to make it look even more presentable. And my profit is okay. That's fine. This currency, and that is it. Okay. I want to modify my table so that I have an extra column that shows a combination of two columns. So what will I do after creating my dashboard? I can still go back and say, click on transform data, and then I click on segments. I click on holding my control key. I click on country to highlight the two columns. I do that again. Click on segments, control key down, click on country, and then the two columns are highlighted. Then I can right click, and then I can merge columns. So if I click merge columns, what will the separator be? I want the separator to be custom, and I want it to be off, space, space. And then the name will be which country. And then I click OK. So we can see that it has been merged. It is now country of mid market of. So it has merged, or in Excel, we say concatenated. So it has concatenated the first column plus of plus the second column, which is easier than writing formulas that we did in Excel. But if you look at the formula bar as well, there are formulas written on our behalf. But because it's a graphical user interface, you just click and click and click. The system does the writing of the code for you, but you can see the effect on the screen. And then after doing that, you can click close and apply. And that's it done. But because we used that particular field, that's why it is telling us that something has gone wrong, because we have removed that initial colon. So what can we do to fix this? We can go back, transform data, and then cancel the last step that we did. So if you actually want to do that and you don't want it to affect your data, you can duplicate this, duplicate the second one, and then you can, um, concat or join them, merge them together. You can also use formulas. You can also use, add colon to add that particular new column to what you want to do. And we'll be looking into that more in our future classes. You can see that our visuals are now back the way they were.